wanted to make a quick video about love bombing. So, for anyone that doesn't know what love bombing is essentially taking what would be normal like signs of affection and loving care in like a very long-term committed kind of relationship and doing all of that within the first week of meeting someone, going from strangers to I love yous and I need you, and planning a future together that ends up being fake. It's called future faking. Maybe I'll go make a video about that too. But love bombing is something that a narcissist will use, and it doesn't necessarily have to be just in the first week. It can be, if you have a long-term relationship with this person as well, it can become more difficult to decipher what is love bombing, what is just like a normal like show of affection that people who like to give gifts do. But I think one of the distinctions between love bombing and normal affection is the fact that love bombing will be very black and white. So it's like, you're the best person ever, I love you more than I love anyone, we're gonna be together till the end of time, and it's like very intense, and usually it is more intense than what the longevity of the relationship would determine as normal, right? And then but not always. But that's one of the good red flags for like discovering people who will love bomb you within the first week or even month of meeting. They will get you all kinds of gifts, shower you in compliments. They will sometimes even try to find your love language, like acts of service or something, and make sure that they are overly performative with the way in which they think you perceive love, right? So another thing that kind of sets love bombing apart is that love bombing, though it is not said, it comes with unspoken conditions, right? So if you do or say something that the person who love bombed you doesn't like, they're gonna bring up, well, I got you this, or I did this for you, or I always say this about you, and that points to the fact that these kindness, these acts of what should be just kindness, are actually attempts at manipulation, because they are there to serve a purpose for the narcissist, to later use as like ammunition or like a bargaining tool or something to make sure you have to even the scales, do something for them. Whereas with real kindness, it doesn't need to be repaid. No one's keeping score. Real kindness is just done because there's a need in that moment and the person wants to be the one to fulfill it, right? We choose ourselves in that moment to be kind for the sake of kindness. That's how like normal, healthy people will show affection. it's and even still, I'm not like trying to demonize either like love bombing, because I do think love bombing is kind of one of those narcissistic traits that can be learned and unlearned by people who don't have narcissistic personality disorder. So I think a lot of children that grew up with narcissistic parents, or even just emotionally abusive parents in some way, who were kind of like the Disneyland dad, where they just come in and give them freaking hundreds of dollars worth of toys, and then they don't pay attention to them, or they're beating them, or they're whatever, and so these children, despite not having narcissistic personality disorder, can develop this narcissistic trait where they believe that love bombing is normal, and because that is normalized for them with an unhealthy parent. Or even if you have had a partner when you were younger that had narcissistic personality disorder, and maybe it wasn't diagnosed or something like that. They generally aren't. But if you learn that like this is how you show your love and affection, you're gonna have some issues coming into healthy relationships with people. I know I did. So I wouldn't say that I necessarily love bombed like a narcissist exactly, because my intention was different. Mine came more from a people pleasing, like insecurity, don't leave me, like I'm trying to show you I love you kind of view, right? Whereas the narcissist comes from, I'm gonna do this for you so I can control you, right? And so it's kind of like the opposite, the inverse like reasoning. One is I want to control you, and the other is you're controlling me, right? But it still is not healthy as a dynamic for a relationship with any human, whether romantic, friendship, any of that. And I do believe that, honestly, looking back, I can admit, and it's kind of, humbling and embarrassing, but I have love bombed friends before to keep them because I didn't really know how to make friends. I've always been kind of socially awkward, and so as soon as someone showed me a little bit of friendship, I'd be like, cool, let's buy us matching shirts, and like, I'm gonna hook you up with food all the time, and whatever you want, like, I'll give you rides everywhere. And that, in a way, is kind of love bombing, but more like people pleasing love bombing, as like a fear attempt so that they won't leave. And you wear yourself out doing that. I know that when you don't have narcissistic personality disorder, and it's not to gain control and stuff like that, like, it is tiresome on your soul, I guess, because you're constantly bending over backwards for people. And then you also start to develop, at least I did, this really toxic mindset of almost narcissism, where it's like you are constantly doing everything for everyone, and so you do feel taken for granted because you're overexerting your kindness to people that, like, you're not really there yet with, you got to save that for, like, the people that really deserve it, like your family, your close friends and stuff like that. Like, they deserve all your love and affection. And again, the intention, after a long time, I feel like, of going where, like, I was constantly giving and giving and giving, I kind of, like, swung the opposite way on the pendulum and did develop, like, semi-narcissistic thinking, or maybe just narcissistic thinking, rather, where it was like, I want people to appreciate what I've done, like, they should in turn be willing to, like, be kind to me too, and just, like, not treat me like shit. But the thing is, like, when you're really being kind, it's not about whether the person's gonna be nice to you or treat you like shit, and I've really had to come to that understanding, because that is what feels true and right in my soul, as, like, what I want and what I feel like kindness is supposed to feel like, what I've felt before, since growing and since examining my own toxic mindsets. And I've spent, since I discovered what narcissism was and saw it in my own mother, I have been terrified that I could be that as well. And so I think even too, that fear that I was being narcissistic, self-centered, made me more people pleasery, and that in turn led to me eventually getting fed up with it and going to the other side and, like, not wanting to help people, wanting to be very selfish, only put my own needs first, not caring about other people's struggles, because I was just so absorbed in my own. And I think that's a lot of what the narcissist struggles with, and right now my healing journey kind of looks like trying to empathize with the narcissist, which is really hard when you've been abused by one. But I do think that it has been helping me be more compassionate with my own narcissistic traits that I did develop from childhood, because I was just taught that that's how life is. And so unlearning what you're taught as a child, no matter how fucked up it is always really hard. You could be taught that the color blue is actually called bluebity as a kid, and if that's what everyone around you calls it, you're gonna think that. And then even when you enter the real world and your teachers are all like, that's blue, you're gonna be like, no, that's bluebity. Like, even if you know and you see on Google, like, it's gonna be hard to unlearn that, even though it's blatantly wrong, and it's just. But so yeah, love bombing. I went off on a tangent, my bad. Love bombing is a toxic trait that has roots in narcissism, because it can be used as a tool to manipulate people, but it is also sometimes subconsciously used by people who have perhaps suffered from some kind of mental and emotional abuse as a means of trying to find security in others because you don't have it in yourself, right? That's what narcissistic abuse does to you. It makes you lose all sense of security in yourself, and that in turn makes you seek out ways to please people so that they don't leave you, because you don't know who you are if you're not in service to others, basically. So yeah, I think that if everyone, when we give and receive gifts, really, like, examining the intentions behind it, and if it makes logical sense, if you've known someone for a week, they probably shouldn't be taking you to Hawaii. It's kind of like a lot. That's more like something you'd do if you've been married for, like, 5 years or something, you gotta take a trip there. You know? I think discernment is just key in a lot of deciphering narcissistic traits, and you know, they're a spectrum too. Everything I think is with any trait, it's a spectrum, it's a sliding scale. You can have minimal amounts to saturation, complete saturation. So yeah, giving should be about the moment and being of service to the moment, I think, rather than any individual or vested interest in one particular person's gain. I think it should just be about what is needed in the situation. What would be a meaningful expression in the moment, not for future or to make up for past transgressions or anything like that, or fear of the future, you know, rather. So yeah, it's cold, so I'm going inside. But I might talk more about love bombing, but if not, have a good one, guys, and I hope that you learned something interesting. I know I did. Bye.